David, take me back before real estate and tell me a little bit about you and what got you into the world in which we now sit.
Okay. So my lifelong dream as a young man was to work with students in a church, so a youth pastor. And at age 22, I got to achieve that. So I was working at a church in Southern California. And
Did you grow up in the church?
I did. I grew up in the church, a small town in northeast Oklahoma. So I've got roots back there, very conservative, whatever. But moved to California and went to Bible college, ended up working at a church. So it was really the start, the start of all this was just, again, a desire to help kids, right? And the heart of it was honestly, my youth pastor growing up was a guy named Don. And I remember very distinctly telling him, I can't repay you, but maybe I could be Don to someone else.
How old were you when you...
I was 15, 16.
Wow.
So pretty young. When I was like, I recognize I can't, but maybe I could help somebody.
Pretty self-aware.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, that's just me being me. I think I'm wired that way. It's nothing extraordinary. It's just my wiring. Just like people and care about people and want to help. On the Enneagram, I'm a 2, if anyone's familiar with that, called the helper. And so anyway, ended up working in a church, right? And 7 years there. We moved to the St. Louis area, west of St. Louis, and worked out there for another 5.5 years. And then we got a call from some friends. So during that first time working in a church in Southern California, we went to a camp above Pasadena, so in the Southern California mountains. And we met a couple, Greg and Sheila. And fast forward many years, they moved to Kansas, we moved to Missouri, they moved to Prescott, start working at a camp, and he's on the phone, David, you guys need to come out.
Wow.
And so we had just arrived in Missouri. It was over a period of years. There were, I think, 3 different phone calls from Greg, like, hey, you need to come out.
Had you ever been to Prescott at that point?
In the middle, I had been to Prescott at some point and actually been to that specific camp.
Interesting.
Just because the church world and small and some friends who booked speakers or bands or whatever at the camp in California would book the same camp here in Arizona. So I played music there and whatever, did something
So you're a
years
musician
ago.
too? Mildly?
I played guitar a long time ago. I don't do it anymore, but I can, I just don't. Anyway, layers and layers of complicated. But
a few phone calls though.
Yeah.
So you need to get out here.
yeah, and we end up saying, okay, so we moved to Prescott in 2002 and moved onto the campus. A lot of camps around the planet are way out in remote areas, hours from civilization. There's a huge camp in central California called Hume Lake. It's like 3 hours from really anything significant.
Really? Wow.
Beautiful campuses. And so remote, away from town. Back east, pretty common that kids went to camp for the summer. So
I grew up going to camp. Yep.
And all of these churches in the Phoenix area put camps in Prescott in the 50s because it was so dang hot. So let's start a little camp and let's get our kids out of the heat and up to camp in the summer. So Prescott has like 30 some camps. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, I
every
didn't realize
denomination, every not denomination, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, YMCAs, there's tons of camps that serve all kinds of different purposes. But anyway, we ended up at this camp and for 13 years lived and worked there and absolutely loved it. My role transition, I wasn't working with students directly, I was working with leaders of students. So people that would bring groups of kids to camp. So anyway, still get to serve, still get the love, still get the help. And we just loved Prescott so much that when it was time to wrap that up, we finished working there, but just said, let's just stay in Prescott. We just love it.
What did you learn during the years of camp that impacted you as a leader specifically?
So, so many powerful lessons about leadership. In fact, I think it was the greatest gift. Greg Mingarelli was the director. He's the executive director, or was the director back then. And we've been friends for years and years and years, 30 plus years we've been friends. But Greg is one of the best leaders I've ever been around. And he was really good at giving credit to others. He was clearly the leader of the organization, but if you brought an idea, if you made a suggestion, if you innovated something at our weekly staff meeting or whenever, he would stand up and say, hey, David came up with this, or hey, Jim came up with this great idea, and here's what we're going to do. And so he was championing the idea, but giving credit to the person who created the idea rather than just assuming credit for it. And so we learned a ton of leadership lessons. In fact, we spent a ton of time on retreats as a staff learning about leadership. And so there's a couple of just fun ones that I'll just throw out. So we studied the Seattle fish market. They actually had a leadership training course, right? And one of my favorite parts of that was bring people in on the fun. And in their context, they have you throw a fish.
Yep.
Right, so they've got an employee, and they're like, grab the fish, and you chuck this fish, right? And so they bring you in, hey, would you like to throw one? Here we go. So in context, at camp, I would do things like walk up to a leader or a student and say, hey, that guy's gonna go ask that girl out right there, let's watch. And so we would just stand there. I don't even know this kid from anybody, or this, I probably knew the leader, but I'm like, let's just watch, this ought to be awesome. Like I know something's happened. Let me bring you in on the context of the relationships that I have with all these people in this room, 400 people in the room in the dining hall or whatever. Or probably my favorite was the camp made its own homemade proprietary granola or a signature barbecue sauce that they made. And I would tell people, hey, go get that, and then go get this off the salad bar and put that together. And they're like, oh, I can do that? I'm like, yeah, and it's really good. You ought to do this, right? So just giving them fun, like bring them in on the fun. Let me take you behind the scenes. Let me show you. Why does the food taste great? Because we have people who cook great food. They take pride in it. Let's go take a look, right? So it's sort of peeling back the curtain and saying, hey, here's the guy behind the curtain. Because I wanted people to feel like this was really, really important, and their being there is super important. And we could demonstrate it easily by that. So that idea was one, like the bring them in on the fun. But who deserves the credit is one of the other ones we learned. And that's what Greg exemplified all the time.
Let me just ask you very point blank. Do you see that exemplified in real estate?
At some levels. Yeah, I do. My conclusion is, and you probably would agree, but everything rises and falls on leadership. And so as an ALC member, I mean, the conversations I'm having with you, the things I bring up are because leadership matters, and leaders making great decisions really matters for all of us. Yeah. And you and this environment allow me, Travis does the same thing, Travis Bard, my team lead, he allows me the opportunity to lead. And I want to help. I want to put my horsepower with his horsepower. So let's pull together. Let's go the same direction. Let's encourage our agents. Let's, when they're down, let's listen. Let's be friends. Let's be family. Let's help, right?
How do you guys bring agents in on the fun in a team context? And yes, I know we're jumping ahead. For those who don't know, you are on one of the largest teams in our organization from a production standpoint, and you're one of the top or consistently at the top of that team. So I just want to give listeners a context for that. And so, with that in mind, how do you guys bring people in on the fun to make what is a sales business that's driven by numbers and activity? How do you make that fun?
Well, it's easy to be fun or have fun when you're successful. So
is that the secret sauce?
Well, that's one of them. So at least for me, and I think that's actually just typical. You feel better about yourself if you're not worried about the next paycheck.
Yeah.
And we can go back and I could talk about historically what really changed in my life. A lot of my success was because of when I started. Well, we'll talk about that later. Let me answer your question. So bringing people in on the fun. So that table upstairs that was put together and the chairs put around it, the legacy team who is consistently here, typically around 6 people are in this building at all times. We're really one of the only teams that shows up every single day. And it's a lot of us. And we look in the parking lot and yep, those are all legacy team members that are here. But at lunchtime, all of a sudden, I don't know if it was me or Chris or somebody, hey, Jess, why don't you come sit out here, right? And so we just sat down at that table, and the two of us ate lunch together. And then Kevin walks over and goes, oh, well, and he heats up his food, and he comes and sits. And so what's happening is all of a sudden we're friends, but we're just talking. Sometimes it's business, but a lot of times it's just life.
Yeah.
We're parents, we're struggling with young kids, older kids, whatever, just talking about life together. And it helps create community.
Yeah.
Right. And then we can laugh in that, or we tell funny stories about, oh my gosh. And that's one of my favorites, is to pick up on something funny and say, did anybody else see that?
Well, you and I share, and some of my listeners know this, but we share that ministry background. And there's a book that was really impactful to me back when I was serving in ministry full time. It was around the concept of community is built around a meal, right? And meals create community. And so even it strikes me that is the example that comes to mind, that the fun, the community, the relationship occurs around a meal. And sometimes we overcomplicate these things. We want to set up this big structure in order to build community and fun. Yeah. And the reality is, a lot of times the best conversations, the deepest relationships, the most growth happens simply around sharing a meal together.
So Amy today, I think you were sitting there at the table with me after the all partners meeting, and there was 5 or 6 people there. And then Amy sits in the section of rows, and I'm like, oh, no. So she popped over, community. It happened. And people stayed around and they talked today, more so than I've seen in a while. And a part of it, I think, was that there was a core group of people that just happened to sit at the table, and we just started talking. Yeah. Jack's sitting next to me. He's asking about whatever. We're talking about life. Richard's on the other end listening to the same conversation that Jack and I are having about loyalty, buyer loyalty or seller loyalty to you.
And I know how much that encourages both of us to see culture and community created like that.
Yeah, because this is a hard business, and life can really suck.
Yeah.
So both of those realities exist. But if I'm doing it with somebody who I know loves me, I'm probably going to be okay.
Yeah. So tell me about the transition from camp then into real estate.
Yeah, it was. So a quick little short story. Camp, left that, did medical sales for a year. I was on a stipend. Then I went full commission. My first check was $160 for the month.
Wow.
The next day, I had 2 or 3 other part-time jobs. One of which was on staff at the church that we currently attended. I went back on staff as a pastor. So there was a bit of a jog, 3 years of that, and then left that and went to work. A friend of mine owns a Visiting Angels franchise in southern Colorado. Okay. Very successful. They do in-home senior care. And he said, David, I want to buy the franchise in Prescott. Would you operate it? So business opportunity came along. I felt like that was my next step. My wife and I discussed it. Yep, that's what we should do. So I did that. And a year and a half later, I was fired. And not for insubordination or anything wrong. And truthfully, because of my worldview, I was hurt at the time. I was on my way to be made a partner and a percentage partner at 24 months, and this happened at 18 months. So 6 months short of getting that milestone. Now, in their defense, as I look back across it, I was not a good fit for their organization based on their leadership structure. And I have huge respect for Michelle Johnson. She was the CEO. And my honest opinion is I don't think I would have been hired by her, but I was hired by the owner, this long-term friend. Chris was his name. So I think she did what was right. We have a great relationship. I'm not bothered by it anymore. But it was on that day, it was hard.
Hard, hurtful. Yeah.
That was a Thursday, June 18, June 15, somewhere like that. This is 2020. COVID is going on.
Yeah.
And I got my last paycheck, and I called a friend of mine who is a business coach, and he lives right down the street. And so I had Dave on my porch that day at 3 o'clock. My wife rolls in. I'm like, hey, I got fired. And she's like, oh, that's hilarious. I'm like, I said,
knowing your wife, I can see that reaction.
Totally I'm like, no, really? And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, we'll talk about it. That's why Dave's here. So anyway, We just talked strategies. He was super helpful and gave me, whatever time I needed. It was maybe an hour conversation. The next day, I'm having coffee with Travis Bard, ironically. And my comment to him was, we met for other reasons, but I said, hey.
So that was a pre-scheduled.
It was pre-scheduled. Okay. I didn't know I wouldn't be employed. But I said, hey, my schedule's suddenly wide open. Can you tell me about real estate? And I had heard for years, people had said, David, I think you'd be really good. And I'm like, okay, well, fine, whatever. I never thought of it. And met with Travis. He and his wife, Carrie, talked about it. He texted me on Sunday, a couple of days later. That was a Friday, so he texted me on Sunday and said, we want you to be a part of our organization. And as my wife talked about it and prayed about it, we're like, yep, we're in. That's it. And so I said yes, and that was middle June. I was licensed and started technically about July 28th or 30th, something like that, right at the end of July. So about a 6-week turn. Got my license, fingerprinted, and started. My cap resets August 1st every year. So anyway, and so I got 5 months of business that year. And then it was 2021 and the market was absolutely crazy everywhere. So if you have half a brain cell functioning, you could sell real estate like at that market.
You have at least half.
I do. I have at least half because I sold real estate. So, statistically, I think it's been a crazy, crazy ride. I've never done less than 25 deals in any year. It's just been a wild, wild ride. And so I have an assistant now, Katie, for the last year and a half. And so we've got some audacious goals that we're going after. We'll see what happens.
We have dozens of agents inside our offices, David, that we could sit down and we'd identify them that joined and got into the business at the same time as you. Mm-hmm. And a huge percentage of that subset of agents even had those terrific years in 21 and 22. 2023, 4, 5, maybe a different story. And what I've seen is there's been a fork and there's been a sharp incline for some of you, like you, and there's been a sharp decline for others. Why? What's the difference? Why did some agents come out of that bonkers market and continue to grow while others have gone the opposite direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. My phone is ringing and driving me crazy. I thought about it a lot, and I can tell you my story. That's probably the easiest way, but I can't tell you why, because I got a great friend on our team. He's my age. He joined at the same time, and we have very different businesses today. So I can't explain why I took off and he's not taken off as much. He and I have had some great conversations this year, and he's like, I'm coming. And I'm like, please, come. You chase me, you have your best year ever, I'll have my best year ever. Whether you beat me or not, let's just go, right? So let's go. So that's his mantra this year, and it's mine to help him and join in and say, okay, let's make this happen. What do we need to do? So side piece. Business was great. 2021, 2022 until June. Interest rates did this massive spike in June of 22, if I remember my dates correctly.
Yep.
And what I earned in the first 6 months, I earned 1/5 of that for the rest of that year.
Wow.
We'd been retiring debt, we'd been doing some great stuff, and all of a sudden debt's on the rise, business is slow, I'm struggling. That stayed that way until March of 23. So about 9 months of struggle and whatever. And then in March, I looked it up in Brevity fairly recently, because I was curious, when did it change? But the bottom line is I just said, I'm not providing for my family. Something's got to change. I have to make the changes. I have to do it.
Was that self-realized, or was that realized?
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, it was just me going, I can't do this. I can't keep going down this road. And so I thought, man, I'm killing it. I'm making 40 phone calls a week or 50 phone calls a week. Like, yeah, And suddenly it had to be 50 a day or 75 a day or 100 a day or 150 a day. And there was a period fairly early on when I was still building momentum in business. It wouldn't be uncommon to make 150 to 200, calls. So I can look back, and in brevity, I can show you a sharp increase in April of 23, in May of 23, in June, and on it goes. And that same agent that I was talking about earlier that Joel and I did, he's like, what did you start doing? So I'd written all this business up on my little whiteboard above my desk so I could keep an eye on it. And he's like, what'd you do? And I'm like, I started making phone calls 6 months ago. That's what I did. And for me, it worked. I just was persistent and make calls, schedule the task, follow back up in a week or whatever I felt like was the reasonable amount of time, and just make calls and make calls and make calls. And it created business. And I finished 23 with my best year ever. I think that was 31 units, 31 closings. And then in 24, I was at 41. Last year we did 51. So it's just kept going. And for me, the secret sauce has been persistent phone calls, persistent follow-up. And then lately, it's not been as massive amount. So because I have an assistant, we're both calling into the same database. She's working leads that I have as well as me. And so I've been able to focus in on people that are most likely to do something soon. And so Brivity helps pop that out for me. Who's doing something in their behavior, looking at listings or looking at market reports that might signify, hey, are you considering a sale? And so, again, making the smartest phone calls I can make. I don't have to make as many necessarily, but the truth is I do, because the majority of business comes from, I think it was last year, 22 or 24 of the closings were Sphere.
Calling into your sphere.
My Sphere, yeah.
So what I hear you say, Dave, is you've since that point you've layered in some other things that have made it more purposeful and effective. You've earned the right to leverage through an assistant. But if we bring it back to, was it March of 23? Or that line of demarcation, if you will, it really just came down to being purposeful and intentional about doing whatever it takes. And your method of choice was the phone. What did that actually look like day to day? Can you bring me back to that? Like, how did that show up in your calendar? How did you stay consistent with it? Who were you calling?
Yeah.
Like, bring me into some of those things.
Yeah, so Brivity is the platform that we use. And so here was I would say the most profound change was, you're there with your friends, right? I got agents. Sitting next to me was Kevin, then the other Kevin next to him, and then right behind me is Chris. We're in a long, skinny, there's 5 desks in this skinny little office. Yep. It's noisy and a paint, office. Right?
No ceiling.
It was not inviting, right? This is not a good call space. But what I found myself doing is going, okay, yeah, I chit chat, and then it's like, okay, I gotta go work. And so I would put my head down and just make phone calls. And I would watch Brivity on a team level has rankings. And so I was consistently the highest phone caller of the day or of the week or of the month or of the year. And so I just kept grinding on that. The big significant change was that I chose to stop being a social so that I could work on my business.
It's almost that idea of, hey, when you go to the office, are you going to work or are you going for other reasons?
Yeah. And I worked a little.
Yeah.
And then we hung out a lot and talked and would like, what if a buyer did this? I'm like, that's all fine and dandy, but I need a buyer.
If we don't have a buyer, it doesn't matter.
Let's go get a buyer.
We've already talked about the importance of community and culture and your leadership inside the office and things like that. So it's not that that's unimportant or something that you value at a high level. It's just like, what is driving the bus. Like, we are first and foremost here to work and provide a living for our family and fulfill that why, whatever that is. And those other things should come in and fall in line. But I see it, it doesn't matter which office we're in. There's a subset of agents that haven't hit that point where they're like, I am going to do whatever it takes to actually move the needle in my business. But the other thing that I hear, Dave, is whether it's that leadership principle that you brought in of like, bring someone in on the fun, or even in the prospecting activity, there's this element of gamifying something. And what I heard you say is like, you gamified it with yourself and with the others in that platform, so that you could, it's almost like activate something competitive in you that was going to keep you motivated.
Right.
Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to something else that's important. Like, how are you actually gamifying the mundane activities that you have to do in order to move the needle?
So I'll talk about hard things in a second, but let me come back to this, question about gamify. I paid a lot of attention to the daily scorecard, right? I watched who's making calls, how many contacts, how many appointments. And for 23 and 24 and probably 25, I didn't look, but you can go back and I will be tops in almost every category, because that's what it took for me to provide for my family. I happened to beat most of the other agents on our team. That was never the point for me. The point was, this is what it's going to take for me to provide at the level I want to provide. And so, you put your head down and you watch. I had a daily call count, right? In brevity, it's 0 over whatever number you said I'm going to make. So around 7,000 calls a year, 8,000 calls a year, something like that.
You telling me like 7,500, I think, at one point was.
Yeah, was it the yearly goal?
Yeah.
And so it divides it out, and I can look at it and go, did I hit it or not? In brevity, it's a blue line going across until you surpass that or equal it. Then it turns to gold. And so I could look on there and say, I'm gold. All right, cool. If I go home and I didn't talk to anybody, I'm happy because I achieved what I said I needed to achieve, because I know that number will get me the business that I need. Those contacts or whatever, phone calls, contacts, voicemails, will lead to this many appointments, will lead to this many contracts, listings, buyers, and then closings. And so I've seen it work. I chose phone calling, but really about anything you choose to do in real estate, like the hard stuff, open houses, door knocking, networking, phone calls. Those are the hard things. But I've been a triathlete over the last 5 years, and although I may not look like it, but I can get out there and compete. And I do want to do hard things, right? And so that's a part of it. Is I do hard things in my personal life because I enjoy the challenge. I do hard things at work because I want to succeed. And so it all went together. I can remember plenty of times I had maybe another agent with me, and we'd been out showing property, and we came back, and I'm walking in the office, and I'm saying, it's 4:30. I'm probably the only agent still there on our team, maybe not. But I said, okay, now I got to go to work. And go to work meant make my calls. The other stuff was fun, right? Showing people properties, going out and taking a listing, doing a photo shoot. That's all fun, but that's not the work. That's not the work I need to get those to keep coming, to get to the next buyer, to get to the next listing. So I went to work, and I'd stay until the calls were done. And then
we need to hear that. I mean, it's the reality.
Yeah.
And for you to make that distinction is really important. And there's agents listening to this that need to hear that. And when you choose your method of lead generation, there's always a math equation that's assigned to it.
Yep.
And when I'm doing business planning or consulting with an agent, we're talking about their annual goals, and they go, yeah, you know what? Like, I want to focus on open houses. Like, fantastic. That's going to have a different math equation than dialing or social media or whatever it is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's like, I don't think any of us care what your chosen method is.
Right.
It's just, are you being honest about the math equation associated with that lever? And are you willing to do whatever it takes to actually produce the result?
Right.
And, I think if more agents behaved like you, knowing the math, how many dials leads to how many conversations, leads to how many appointments, they would just sleep better at night because they can go to back home and pillow their head going, you know what? I won the day because I did the activities.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that I had the outcome that I desire, but I know that I did what I was supposed to do.
Right.
Right. And I think, I know you're passionate about this, whether it be on the legacy team or in the Prescott office or me with the agents across our network. I want our agents to access the tools that they have available, the proven models that they have available to figure out their math equation.
Right.
I don't care if it's like $10,000 a year or $1.5 million a year, but like know the math, know the numbers, and know how to win the day.
Right. Yeah. I just had this conversation with my son, and it was exactly those things. What are the steps you can take, and it's a number-driven thing. How many of those contacts do you need to make? How many of those, we were talking about jobs, but you're looking for work. How many of those are worth applying to? Of those, how many are worth then following up with to make sure, because you really like this company and you want to get an interview, and how many of those can you get to the interview stage? It's all a math equation.
Yep.
And his is a shorter term goal, and it's to find a single place to work. But it's a lot of process to get there. And I can tell you today, my contact ratio is almost 50%. So it's super, super high.
Like dial to contact?
Yeah.
Like people pick up the phone?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And
Wow.
and that happens over time. I don't know how many, I'm a couple of hundred deals into business, right? So I have plenty of past clients. If I call them, likely they'll call back or talk to me, right? And so some of it's that I've earned enough business that business keeps coming. Probably one of my biggest, not secrets, I'm really good about getting an agent referral. Robert, for example. Robert Myron is up in the Bay Area. Okay. And he may be east of there, but anyway, he'll probably correct me later. But anyway, he sent me a guy years ago, and I continue to follow up, and I'll call Robert, and I'll say, hey, just want you to know I'm still working on him. And he's like, you're the only agent that consistently calls. And he goes, and so anybody in Sedona or Prescott, I'm like, just call me for Arizona altogether. Just anybody on his team, he's going to say, you need to call David Coyne. And David will help you find an agent in Flag or in Phoenix, an area I don't serve, depending on what you're looking for. And it's just, let me be helpful. Yep. But yeah, give me a referral all day long. I'll help here in the Sedona or the Prescott markets. And so that's an intentional strategy, and they will pick up the phone. Or if they won't, they'll text back and say, hey, got your message, great to hear from you. Because I want business, and I want to give them business.
Well, what you've done, besides the past clients, you've also, we teach people how to treat us. And that, I believe, in that rule
well
for our database as well. Like, you have trained them that when you call, there's some type of value. There's a reason to pick up the phone. There's a relationship to cultivate, not just from you to them, but from them to you as well. And so you've conditioned them, I think, to pick up your call. And that only happens over time.
Right.
It's time on task over time, doing it repeatedly. And like we talked about in the sales meeting, like most of us are not doing that, even with the people who already know, like, and trust us.
Yeah.
Right?
And to be honest, I am shocked that my business is as good as it is because I am poor at following up on past clients and Sphere. That's just the reality. I have no idea how big it would be if I actually worked at that. Maybe I'll do that.
Better. We didn't get to talk much about leadership at the beginning of the conversation. but we got into so many good things, through your story, and I think so much of this is going to be really helpful to people that hear this. But one of the things that I've admired most about you and our relationship over the last 5.5 years is you're one of my first calls when I am struggling with something leadership-wise or want perspective. And I try not to bug you. I probably could bug you 20 times more.
You should.
I probably should. But you're a leadership council member, which is a small group of agents that I choose to be around me every single year. Mm-hmm. You've served on that now. Is this your third year?
I think so.
Third year now. And so I want to pick your brain a little bit more on leadership because, our organization now has probably close to 70 teams. 70 teams of varying sizes. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing that I think is lacking in the real estate industry, it is quality leadership. And it's not just leadership, real estate. I should just say, just in our world, leadership. Most of us are not taught how to be good leaders. And I guess my question, what I'm getting at is, how do you try, in your context, your team, how do you attempt to display leadership? What does that mean to you on a day-to-day basis to be a good leader?
In practical terms, for me, I can give an example. Monday night? What is it, Wednesday? Yeah, Monday night, we had call night. So all place teams do call nights once a month. And so the national championship football game kind of preempted some of that. But there were a few of us here trying to make some calls. And Becky is a newer agent on our team. She is a seasoned agent, 30 probably plus years in business, maybe 40. Wow. You asked her?
I did get to meet her. I didn't ask her how long.
Yeah, she's in California, but she just has moved here and just started again. And I walked in and I looked at the leaderboard on calls, and I saw that she had 4 calls posted. So I stopped what I was doing. I walk over to the office she's in, and I just said, "Hey, who are you calling tonight?" And she said, "Oh, I'm just following up on some past clients and Sphere stuff." And then she said, "I got to deliver a value to the home value to this particular person." And I said, "Okay, no wait." Because it was just a no name, it was just an address, right? And I said, okay, well, let's go to Yavapai County GIS and let's go find that address and find a name. And then let's go over and let's use that software, Forewarn, that we use and see if we can find a phone number to go with that name. And so we did all of that. And now I said, I know it's a bit of a process, but you can actually confidently, if you end up mailing it or delivering it, you can write their name because they're the homeowner, they're the property owners. And at least you have data to go along with. And so I just reminded her of that reality, and that's leadership. I want Becky to succeed. I would give deals to Becky to help her succeed. Hey, I can't service this person, but I want you. I think you'd be great.
Yep.
Like that I think is leadership. I'm not trying to cut my own throat, of course. I want everyone to succeed, and I want it to be a culture following how Travis built this, right? It's not Travis Bard Real Estate Network, it's legacy. And I so appreciate that he didn't name it in a way that was about himself. It's built by him, it's built by his wife, but it is, I want to leave behind something that somebody else could pick up. And branded that way, if Travis decides to step out, somebody else could pick up the legacy and say, we are about helping people near term and far term in how they want to provide for their family. What do they want to leave behind? And so even the name is just beautiful, right?
It really is.
But leadership, I think, in my mind, is let's help each other. Let's be in this together.
Which goes back to exactly how you're wired.
Exactly. I want to serve. I want to help people. Yeah. And I had a lady the other day that she called me. She thought I was a listing agent on a property. I was not. And but I've been communicating with her and her boyfriend listings, and they've been to Prescott. They've looked at stuff. We've actually been out with them, and or my assistant Katie went out with him and showed him stuff. Anyway, so we have this relationship. She called me, and she thought I was a listing agent. She got really excited. I got her the information that she needed. And then I get a call from an agent out of Phoenix who says, hey, I've got a referral for you. And I'm like, oh, I've already been talking to her, you know. And it was a bit awkward. I was like, I don't know how I feel about this yet. But he wanted, they've been in a relationship for a long time. They've done a lot of deals together. And his advice to her was, you need to just work only with the listing agent. So I called her. I want to chat with her about that. Can't reach her. So I just end up texting her and saying, I understand your preference is to work with the listing agent, and that's totally okay with me. Because it was the right thing to do, right? And I just said, I'm totally fine with that. I had one conversation with you. If you want to work exclusively with the listing agent, that's totally fine. We'll do business some other day. And I guarantee you I earned her respect, because it didn't make a big deal about it. Once I understood, this is what you want, I'm not that. Now, late in the conversation, that original one, I said, no, I'm not the listing agent. She goes, oh, you're not? I'm like, no. And so she thought, are you buying Zillow ads? Or no, I'm not. I don't know how you got it, but you got it.
Yep.
But I'm not the listing agent, So that's all good, and I feel good about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Leadership's doing the right thing.
Do the right thing.
Playing
Take care of people well, right? It is a long, long game. I work super, super hard locally. I save every single phone number of local agents. If I call them or they call me about a listing or any kind of information, I save it so that I can say, hey, David, how you doing? Like when you call, I'll answer you. I don't, that's what I do. I save it because that relationship is so important.
Yeah.
And if they're looking at equal deals, I like David Coyne. I think his deal, he's just easier to deal with than this other offers agent.
Yep.
So that, you win in lots of ways. And I think those are some of the key ones.
I love that. The phrase I say, because obviously I've devoted my life to the real estate business, and I care about real estate leaders, is the biggest leap in this business is from salesmanship to leadership. And because those who typically build teams are those who have been really, really good salespeople, they take a lot of their qualities as salespeople, and that is what they lean on to build these organizations, which sometimes leads to really negative culture. So I'm curious if you've been around a lot of teams. Legacy as a top team gets to go and see and be around and mastermind and experience a lot of other teams. The reason I want to ask you this is because you're a leader on your team, but you're not the owner of the team.
I'm not the leader. Right?
You're not the leader. And so you have a really unique perspective, I think, because you're seeing it from a different vantage point. What are most real estate team leaders getting wrong?
Wow. That's a good one.
Did I stump you?
No, but it's good. I mean, so again, just for context for people listening, I sit on the ALC and I'm surrounded by team owner. There's only a few of us that are agents, either solo or on a team, and not team owners. So I had to get over that mentally. I'm there.
You figured it out.
It's all good. And I had a great conversation with Kelly. I'll tell you about it later. But anyway, and I hear them, but I think Rich Barker is a leader who gets it really, really right. And I think it is participation in the business with his agents. So I think that leaders that do that, not necessarily always in production, although they can be. Like that's our model. Travis is in production some, but he's also leads and coaches and does a bunch of stuff. So Travis, I think Travis trusts me to lead and not screw things up. And I've verbalized this to him on multiple occasions. Hey, I just want to make sure that I'm pulling the way you're pulling, right? And I have a standing 7:30 Monday morning meeting with Travis. So I've got a guy who coaches lots of other high producing agents around the nation, and he coaches me for free. I have a coach, but I take advantage of Travis too. And we talk life, we talk about personal stuff, we talk about marriage, talk about kids. I mean, real stuff. Because that also affects how I do my job, right? Because there's an emotional withdrawal. You know, there's a lot of withdrawals sometimes, and I come in because stuff's been hard at home, and I'm not feeling up to work.
Yeah.
I had a huge problem with motivation over the last probably 4 months. It's been a weird thing, but here we are.
Well, if I'm reflecting this back accurately, and you can tell me if I'm not, what you're saying is so true, that what some leaders or team owners get wrong as they're building out the organization is they, one, get out of touch with their people.
Fair.
Because they're at something as simple as a 7:30 standing meeting, right? As you're scaling, you have got to have at least that inner circle of people that you've entrusted and empowered. So I think another principle is that poor leaders are not empowering and trusting their people.
It's probably that is probably the number one thing. That is probably the number one thing. And Travis is the kind of leader, for example, that allows me to ask hard questions. He sometimes will ask. Sometimes I'll say, how do you think that meeting went down? I have a perspective because I was sitting there, but I wonder how the other agents heard it. How are they responding to our operations person typing in notes inside of Brevity that pop up? And I did not handle that well in the beginning.
It came to light.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, we laughed about it yesterday at the ALC. Yeah. So, but that then led to a great conversation with Lou Ann and I sitting down together, and because I'm an open book, let's strategize about how to help every other agent succeed and maybe not have this initial reaction like I did, and it was poor, and I'm sorry I reacted that way, but how do we do this? So Lou Ann collaborates with me all the time. She'll come in and ask because I want to ask the hard questions too, because I want to make sure she's leading at her best and helping all of us succeed in the role that she has as a leader in our world, and Travis as well, or any other agent for that matter. But I think that's the biggest one is I think leaders can get scared or paranoid over what is David's intentions in my business? Does he want to help me or hurt me? Should I just be cautious? You know, why is that person being nice?
Yeah,
well, some of us are just nice, actually.
Yeah, but there is that air of like skepticism. David, I could talk to you all day. Like I really could, and I don't want to be late to my kids' football practice because I'm the coach.
That's probably a smart thing.
Probably a smart thing. So I want to transition us to the last segment of the show. 3, 2, 1, action. Same 3 questions I ask every guest. Rapid fire. What's the most significant or important book that you've read, and why?
Oh wow. Boy, they come and go. Just off the top of my head, a quick one. The obstacle is the way.
I love that one.
Because the title reminds me every day. The hardship of training for a triathlon is the method. I had a sign above my desk for a long time. Phone calls are the challenge and the path to success.
That's awesome.
Right? It's the obstacle is the way. These stupid phone calls that no one wants to make.
That could have been another quote on your ALC quote
board.
Could have
been right there. Said it was something dumb like, I like strawberries. I don't know what it says.
No, it was from your mom.
Oh, that's right. It's my mom. Okay, 3. Okay, go ahead. 3, 2, 1.
Love it. The second question is, and this one I've reframed a little bit because I think it's important to express gratitude. I think it's just a super important energy that we put off. And so I used to ask people, who's the most significant person in their business and why. The tweak on it, David, is I want you to thank someone specifically about their impact on your life or business.
Well, that's a big list of people. So I'm going to narrow it to business.
Okay.
It's Travis. I mean, for that. And we've been friends for a long time, but as co-workers and collaborators, it's been great. You've been great, Travis. Great business partner, great friend, and the opportunity to live life together, you know, and to dream big dreams. And you know, when you work in the world of ministry, it's not about income. And so there's a part of my heart and makeup is I gotta make up some ground here, people. And so I feel like I have this opportunity, this window, late in life to do some things financially that'll be helpful for myself and my wife, and our children and our future grandchildren, and on and on it goes.
The legacy that you leave.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
Yeah. And my big why, you didn't ask, but my big why is really ultimately about people at my house, on the porch, whatever this, but at my house that we can love and encourage. That's it.
Love that. You've dropped a lot of good wisdom. If there is one thing, last question, that you would challenge agents in our world and outside our world who are listening to this, push the chips all in, so to speak. What's the one thing that they should go do right now after listening to this to move the needle in their business?
Well, I just think do hard things. And I would challenge you to make more calls than you've ever made in your life over a long period of time. I mean, I didn't commit necessarily to a timeline, but it was about 6 months.
Yep.
And then I started to see stuff happen, and it has never slowed down.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation. People are going to want to learn more about you. They're going to want to connect with you. I'm sure there's going to be referral opportunities for the Prescott area and beyond. What's the easiest way for people to get connected to you?
You can email me. Is that the easiest?
Sure.
It's David at legacyren.com. REN, Real Estate Network. So legacyren.com. David at legacyren.com.
Awesome. We'll link that up in the show notes.
Okay.
For agents inside Access Network brokerages, David is an ALC member. He's here to support and help you. For those who are listening outside, this is one of the best in Northern Arizona. And so get connected, send your referrals. And thanks for hanging out with me, man.
That's great. Thanks, David.